Okay, it's 7:06. We are at our February 21st Planning and Zoning meeting. Let's go ahead and take roll. Tommy?
Here, present. Grant.
JP present.
Terry O'Connor present.
Eric Fisher present. Brady Optinger present. We do have a quorum. We will move then right into the village planning part of the agenda, and the first item is to hopefully vote and approve our own rules for the year. We had talked about those at the last meeting. We had a little bit of communication online, and so now I'm happy to kind of discuss what we went through, or if everybody's comfortable, you want a quick recap of what we decided to do. We moved some things around. That was the gist of it. We have standardized the amount of time for the public to speak, regardless of what kind of meeting it is, except a work session, and that's at 3 minutes, not including any Q&A. We then also added withstanding into zoning variance meetings as far as members of the public that can talk, which means you have to be in some way affected by the variance request. And then we added a new section on how we're going to handle procedure for conditional use meetings. And those mirror almost exactly what we're doing for variance hearings, except you don't have to have standing to speak. And that's because for us to grant conditional use, one of the criteria per code has to do with the public welfare, the general welfare of the public, and so any member of the public that has.
Can you just give me like the difference between variance and conditional use?
Sure. So conditional use is something that is allowed by zoning, so right within the zoning district, but it has to go through an extra step. You know, and the village has some ability to both negotiate and they could deny it if it don't meet certain criteria, right? A variance is different in that the variance is outside, think of it as outside of what's standard in the district. So you take your residence district, for example, there are setbacks, right? And so we regularly had issues with setbacks with the old section until we changed the code recently, right? It's because there's all kinds of houses and there, you know, people kind of willy-nilly build things and didn't necessarily, well, what they did is they changed the code on everybody back in '89, long story short, right? And so suddenly there were a lot of issues, and every time we had a resident come in and say, hey, I want to put a shed here, or hey, I want to add on to my house. That house may have been built like 3 foot from the sideline, when the setback for the district was like 8 feet. Okay, so that house is already in that setback. And so in order to grant them the permit to go ahead and build the addition, we got to give them a variance for that setback, as an example. So it's anything that needs a change from the given standards for that any particular district.
So Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but a variance is what your property looks like. Conditional use is what you can do on your property.
What I want to use it for.
So a conditional use has to do with what you're going to use the property for. So largely it's going to affect the commercial districts.
Okay.
Right.
What business you're allowed to operate there, or in a residential, what business, if you want to work from out of your home, what you're going to. So we have in code outlines of what you are allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can work from home, right, at a corporate job. Can you work on cars from home?
Right.
There are
Stipulations of.
exactly, and so you would have to come here to say, I want to have a car dealing business that operates outside of what you guys already say, and then we can say you can use it as a car detailing business under these conditions, conditional use.
If it was written that it was a conditional use, so it has to be already written in there as right. So for example, if it's not there, you can't even do a conditional. You actually have to come in for what we call a use variance, which is typically not recommended and not it's frowned upon, right? like it, we don't like it, some people call it spot zoning. So there are both variances of the code itself, and there are use variances. Conditional use has to be written as part of the district, right? So in the cases, Brady mentioned the condition, the uses are there, but any use not written automatically becomes a conditional use where it's written that way, and you have to go through the process as spelled out for the conditional use.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
yeah, your explanation of like, yeah, what it looks like versus what
Yeah.
I can do.
Right, so when we have a variance hearing, that is someone coming in saying, I want to build a fence that's taller than I'm allowed to build. And then someone with standing would say, I'm their neighbor, and if you build the fence too high, it will shade out my garden. If you say, I live 3 streets over, and I just don't like high fences, then you don't have standing, so you wouldn't have the opportunity to speak at the variance hearing.
So is there a reason, there was a little difference in how we, because under the variance, there is no time limit.
What's the time limit?
Well, you know, of how long I can speak. So like under the, number 6 under conditional use specifies 3 minutes. But up under variance, we didn't actually.
Right, and I think the reason for that is because these are, folks with standing.
So I might
So-
need a far longer explanation for
Right.
what,
And,
okay.
and, the chairman and the committee always have the ability to ask folks to wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay.
That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah, because that's what I was noticing, there was those differences, that's why I wanted to.
Right. So yeah, when we're allowing anyone in the public to speak, it's 3 minutes. So that's a regular meeting when you want to speak on any agenda item, or at a conditional use hearing when you want to talk about how this affects the public. That's limited just in the effort of time, and things get repetitive and stuff like that. So, these, we are allowed to add, remove, amend, or suspend any rule by a simple vote of the majority. So these rules are our guidelines. Obviously, if we need to change them for any reason at any given time, we can do that with a majority. But these, if everybody's okay with what we have here, we can adopt these hopefully today, and they'll be the rules that we operate by for the year. This is the second time I think that we've done this, and so I think we're getting into good refining at this point.
Yeah.
And it's nice that we actually have rules to go by for the first time. So, if that's okay, I would entertain a motion to adopt these rules.
Motion to adopt?
We take a second.
Second?
Okay, we'll just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Cool.
Not allowed to vote.
Nope.
You're not
Do
voting
you
members.
have any issues with them?
No, I'm just saying,
Okay.
I'm just kind of stating the obvious, sorry. It's not a question, my bad.
Okay, cool. So that is that. I think I went out of order here. We should have, well, no, I just left it off the agenda, but we'll go ahead and quickly approve the minutes that I sent out for the last meeting. If everybody's okay with that, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Or a second.
No, second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? JP, any to add? Okay, minutes are approved. Moving on then to green space master list. So, we had worked toward the end of last year at trying to prioritize, we did brainstorming of a non-comprehensive list, hoping to someday be a comprehensive list of green space items that we'd like to see acted or improved upon. And then we had another session where we tried to whittle those down and have folks select their priorities. So then from that, this is the last commission's recommendations. Everyone here was on the last commission. what I would like to do is pick 6 of these items that are our top priority right now or today. And then hopefully with our liaison's help, talk to council president and figure out what we should be working on out of those 6. Go ahead.
I'm on the Parks and Recreation Committee with President Camara, and the playground improvements, he had a nice catalog that we were kind of looking through and picking out some stuff for the playground improvements. So I just want to point that out.
And that's exactly why. And I know that there's a pool group of some sort. So where we can be helpful, I want to be, but I don't want to be duplicative.
Yeah.
Right.
And-
I would honestly suggest, well, since the school has already met with us and they're moving forward with their disc golf project, and since this body has spent some time on the disc golf, I would strongly suggest that we kind of mirror that, because that would give this group something of significance to work on as well too. You know, sort of planning it out.
To talk with the school?
No, the school's already moving forward. We've already had a meeting with the school. They're gonna put money into it. It would be good to work,
Yeah.
concurrently with them.
Yes.
And that gives us the opportunity, since we've already done some good work here for that project. What I'm suggesting is that one gets moved up the list as far as this body's concerned. Because some of these other things are obviously gonna be handled at the council level.
Right.
And playground improvements, there's no
Right.
purpose for us to plan if they're.
Unless council wants us to.
Makes
And
sense.
so that's, yeah, I mean, it is our role per code to review and make suggestions on all public improvements, but I don't, if everybody's already on board and the train's
Right.
left the station, then there's no reason for us to spend
Right.
our days.
The disc golf involves a bit more planning,
Yeah.
as we know, and things of that nature. And it will be a little more time consuming, and the council won't want to necessarily, it's not a simple thing as picking out things from the catalog,
Right.
we'll go here and there.
Yeah, and that will require some field trips of us walking
Right.
again, and hopefully we can get Lewis back to help us as what we'll call our resident expert.
Yes.
And the amphitheater improvements are proceeding regardless. So,
Well, except what are those?
be happy to talk
Right,
about
so we know the things that are being done, do we want to do more?
Right, so the things, and if there are suggestions, now is the time, because I have to finalize, the state actually asked me to spend more money, quite frankly. They said, we're not spending enough, and Jeff is concerned, and they told us that actually we'll reimburse you up to $100,000. We do. And I said, oh,
Not local match, but just,
well, they'll reimburse us for everything we spend up to $100,000. So I said, okay, that's really good. So the things that so obviously the stage is done, so that's gonna get
is the
reimbursed.
flooring down?
The concrete's behind start with the wall obviously got fixed.
Right.
The stage wall itself, so that was about $10,000. We spent 16 on pouring the concrete, so we're up to 26 on that. There's gonna have to be additional fencing improvements to this, obviously there's a drop, we don't want the crowd just going into the ravine, that's a bad thing. So more fencing has to be done around the side, a few grand in fencing would have to be spent. We have to increase the ADA stuff up top.
Right.
Has to be railings that put up there, obviously there are gonna be some nice cast iron railings.
And we wanted to make a little bump out on the path.
Right, that's all gonna be done.
Electric.
Electric is gonna be, shockingly, the electric came in much cheaper than.
Shockingly?
Shockingly, pun intended, but it is pun. But that came in significantly cheaper, like, we had budgeted initially $38,000, and once it's all said and done, it came in, I'd be surprised if we break $16,000 in total. So we may end up expanding some additional electric stuff at the bottom, just because we're looking to spend money, we might as well.
Which
get some additional
from
stuff.
a performer standpoint, would
Right.
always be
Right.
preferable.
We were just gonna do a simple, people still have to get equipment down there, there's not an ADA approved path to get down there. We were gonna do some type of path, but we were just looking at something to help people down. Now, we're going to up it to, which it wasn't gonna be asphalt originally, right? Now we're gonna look at an actual asphalt path that goes down the hillside kind of in front of the riprap rock area, to be able to get, so people can actually push things down, get equipment to the, other things to the stage area itself. I don't have a final quote for that, I'm waiting on that from the contractor. But all in all, we were only at like, I don't know, 50, 60 grand, we still have 40 grand to spend.
Okay.
But it's a little tough, maybe there's some unique seating area, there has to be some railings, or the cast iron railings will cost a little bit more money, but nothing is crazy yet. So I'm open for any suggestions that people think of down in that area.
Like a street light?
I was gonna say some lighting.
Yeah. Like how we have with the dam, that way people.
Right.
All right, well, it sounds like that would be reasonable for us to try and move up our agenda simply because, you know, we can actually do something instead of give really good ideas to council and have them say we don't have the money. It sounds like this is something we can do.
There was someone behind a lot of that, correct?
What's that?
Someone in the village worked pretty hard to move that
Well,
forward.
originally yes.
Donna Kopecki.
Donna made the original one, and then from that point, we combined to coordinate with the OFCC and stuff like that, get it pushed
Yeah.
in and everything.
But yeah, Donna made the ask and got our legislators
Yep,
to make it happen.
I mean, it'd be interesting to hear, because, you know, like you have an idea and you're like, okay, let me pare this thing down and make sure that it's reasonable and we can get people. But it's like, hey, what's the dream list? What was the original vision? What was the,
I think the original plan, I mean, the original vision was just to rehab it, it
Okay.
was, you know, it was falling down, the trees growing out of it.
right, and we succeeded, it's hard to see into there, let's see if I find counties.
Is there stuff, I know you're talking about the railings and stuff, about kind of grading the seating area, because it's pretty
Well, we have
rough,
to
is
be,
that?
we have to be careful what we get into, because remember, it's the backside of the dam.
Right,
So
so
we
it is,
can't really change the grade, you know, that's there on that backside. The area itself is pretty flat, down at the bottom, and it's not, we may add a little bit of drainage control, you know, which again, none of this is breaking the bank expensive, it's just all reasonable stuff that, you know, we do, sorry, that's 23 now. This is actually decent bit. And I think they actually caught, this is 23 arrows, so they actually caught our, you can see how nice and bright it is. They didn't catch it where the concrete's in yet, but they caught this last year where this is the stage, nice and, looks good after we finished it.
So let's, for the next meeting, if you can give us an estimate on about how much money might be left, and then we can start looking at what, you know, I don't want to come up with $200,000 worth of ideas.
What I will say is, I will send an email around with a quote, because I actually have to submit to them something prior to the next meeting.
Okay.
In order to get it in there, because she has to take it to her committee, and then that way we want to be able to be fully approved by April, the construction timeframe. So we can get everything done in short order. So I'll put something together for, you know, there's no problem, people just make suggestions via email, so that'll be helpful. And if there's anything else, I can put it in there before I submit it to her.
Okay.
That'll be useful.
Yeah, they are at the time of year where they've got to be giving their estimates for reappropriation, so that's what they're trying to figure out.
Right, and unfortunately, this information came in between the last meeting and this meeting.
We can move fairly quickly on this if we're all perfect. Or can you pull the list up with the Excel?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Table is. Are there other things that, I mean, this is our time to figure out our priorities. If we've got, let's see. So, yeah, I mean, if the playground improvements are likely to be already, you know, discussed by folks who have a budget, and can actually affect the change, and then is the pool parking lot being discussed by the pool subcommittee?
I think that's a broad question, because they got the Valley Road, right?
Right.
And they're thinking, do you want to finish Valley Road and do I mean, there's a whole host. And then do you want to do, at the time of pool refinishing, if that gets done, when do you want to do all those things? And
So, I mean, we have 3 council, we almost won't have quorum. Is this something that you guys want planning and zoning to work on, or is this something that you guys, is it a,
But with the parking lot is more of a final piece of an infrastructure discussion.
yeah.
I don't know what planning is on.
right?
It's pouring a lot, and I think it's just
Yeah.
more of a funding timing decision, quite frankly.
Okay, well, instead of whittling down further from that point, are there things that folks want to prioritize? And I'm gonna jump on my backhouse
I was gonna say,
soapbox one more time.
the number one question was, do we have a budget for this stuff, or?
No, so but we're gonna get
Okay.
to budget time. Obviously, again, almost have to call council members. It's actually useful at this point, but these will have to, the P and Z will recommend the stuff up, and then, you know, staff along with the council will, you know, make there'll be some discussions of what gets funded for next year.
And that's, again, I'm gonna harp on what seems like the smallest, weirdest one, but the bat houses.
Agreed.
I think we're spending $8,000 a year on mosquito spray in our budget. And if we spent $4,000 1 year to put up bat houses, then it's possible in 2 years,
Yeah.
we could spend 0 and also not be spraying.
Right.
I think it's the least amount and also should be moved to the top, if anybody else agrees with that.
I mean, and I've been doing a little bit of research. I asked ChatGPT to make an argument for and against.
What did ChatGPT?
I mean, talked about the ecological benefits and the potential cost savings, and then as far as reasons why you shouldn't have them, it was people are scared of bats.
Like your mayor?
No
Like-
worries about bats in people's houses or anything of that
Well,
nature?
and so part of it is when you give a bat a really nice place where it wants to live,
Okay, like people,
it would prefer that over your attic.
I like it.
That or, yeah, no bats in Belfry.
Right.
It actually helps.
And so, you know, bats prefer to be on a pole in a house. You know, and these houses are not big. They're, you know, like this and less than a foot deep. And you
Yeah.
put them up on a pole. They love to be in woody areas or tree-filled areas, but not on a tree. And they love to be by bodies of water. So we have those all throughout the village.
So do mosquitoes.
And because of a bat can eat, what is it, 1,000 mosquitoes a night?
A lot. They can
Do
crush
they
it.
eat cicadas?
I don't know, everything else does.
I mean,
That's
that's
actually, you know, I do not like cicadas, so yeah,
those things are.
we're gonna need a bat.
So I mean, you know, making a nice environment for bats keeps down on the insects we don't like, and also keeps down on the need to spray for the insects we don't like, which creates long-term cost savings, and it has the potential to become a cool thing.
Right.
This may be a pie in the sky thought, but initially I was thinking, we're gonna build bat houses as a community and erect them ourselves. Is this not something that we would do? We would hire someone?
There's a company in Ohio that sells the bat houses, and then Chipper would plant poles and hang them up.
Okay.
There are very easy instructions on, you know, they like to face this way and be about this place, and you can look by any of the ponds and say, yep, this is a good place for it. And then I would probably suggest to council to pay a little bit extra to get some placards of some sort that say,
Yeah, cool education.
this is a bat house, these are how great bats are, please don't shake this thing.
No, don't touch.
But again, so that, you know, this seems to me like a slam dunk, knowing of course that there will be residents like our mayor who say, I don't want bats here.
She'll be fine. They're not gonna eat her.
But again,
That'll be great. We've got a lot of bats around here already. I mean,
Yeah,
and they've been around for many, many years, so.
they're
Yeah,
up on
why
his
not?
chimney right now, like all.
I mean, you can look up at night in the summertime and
You see it?
you go,
Yeah.
that's not a bird.
Yeah.
It's not a plane. It's Batman.
So where are we with the involvement in the lake improvements? So one time we talked about that we were gonna be involved in that.
Well, I asked the engineer to forward me some stuff and keep me in the loop. We had a conference call on Monday about a number of things. And that was one of them that got mentioned, just so, because there's a number of different hands in the pot. And I just want to keep things flowing because, yeah, I think when we get involved is going to be, you know, there's obviously an engineering of the lake to achieve certain goals, right? And that's not our forte. They'll make the best, they're gonna make a recommendation and it's gonna be engineered to that recommendation if council moves forward with it, right? But there are things around the lake that are important, i.e. pathways, buffer zones, how these things are plotted out, you know, how it all kind of works together. And then I'll segue to the planting native plant sunflowers and things, because that's an easy one and that also kind of flows nicely into any wider beautification and lake planning, because that's part of it, and which this body will be definitively needed.
and I don't have it in front of me, but if we're to follow the letter of the law, the code says that we are to be consulted in some way with any changes to public space.
Yeah, but that one's kind of gonna be more dictated as to when it's gonna come
Right.
based on these other things. So maybe it's not the time, maybe it's one of our top lists right now, because
Right.
our timeline for that's gonna be dictated by all the studies and
There's-
everything else. else
Yeah.
going on.
It would be nice to have a plan set to look at too, and that's not prepared yet. Right now, there are recommendations of how to handle the lakes versus an actual plan set, where it hasn't been, that's a $100,000 plus away, you know, to engineer, you know.
So that one can kind of move down on our list
Right,
as something as well.
yeah. I would hope that the lakes themselves get engineered, you know, throughout this year, because we're still looking for funding for actually
And, yeah.
performing the lake project. They have funding to do the soft cost, meaning the engineering of the plan sets.
And this is news to Eric, so I'm telling you now in front of everybody, but I met with our state senator yesterday, and he said, what do you guys, what do you need for this big pot of money that's gonna get to them in about April?
You say here's our document.
And I said, we've got stuff that is, there's a template for the House and a template for the Senate. We have submitted to the House and we didn't get the one pot that we wanted. But now the Senate has basically said we're completely ignoring what the House did, and gonna do whatever we want with twice as much money.
Good.
And so our senator said, get that to me as soon as possible so that he has as much time to get in. So I promised it to him this week.
Good.
We should be able to do it in 20 minutes because it's all the same stuff we already wrote for the House. But, so our senator wants to push walking trail improvements or walking path improvements for us and the watershed cleanup, whatever we titled it. So, there is a chance that we'll find out we might be able to afford it quickly and things will move faster. But for now, we need to figure out what the universe is, so.
And that's great, because if that money's available, it times out nicely, because again, the money's not available until like next year, right? Anyways, what they approved it.
Yeah, it would be July 1, the bill would pass, and then we would start the process of getting the
Right.
funds. Again, it's an awfully heavy lift because it's just the political makeup and the priorities of folks, but, fingers crossed, and if we don't ask, then we can't be told no,
Right.
so.
Regardless, the engineering has to be done this year, so then they can, then we have to send out the bid, which takes multiple months, So the earliest we could start would be springtime next year.
So, yeah, so if we're prioritizing things, I would throw out, so if we're going down the list, curbs and sidewalks are the next thing. And that, it sounds like, not to just kick a bunch of cans, but it sounds like there's the funding for, the CODA funding that might change the landscape of that.
Right.
And I would think we could have other recommendations made. We could put things on our plate and clear them before that would come through. So maybe we don't prioritize that now
No.
and work on some of the smaller projects that we think we can knock out.
I have a question.
Good.
Is it possible to move disc golf up so we can kind of match the timeline of Westville City Schools?
I think, so yeah, what I've got right now is the
Sorry.
three of the 6 things to work on are disc golf, amphitheater, and bathhouses.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna throw out,
They're already digging a plan, aren't they? For the
Say it
disc
one more
golf?
time.
I don't know what they're,
Oh, there's,
I don't know what that is, but, well, my kindergartner said it wasn't.
okay.
Are they already
He's a liar.
something?
There's already, they're doing something.
Where are they starting?
In the, behind him,
But there's also like squares right by the crosswalk, and I can't imagine that they would put them like 20 feet from where cars are parking.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
That wasn't the initial plan I saw when they just kind of laid out. I'll have to ask if I can get a copy of that, so you guys can see it.
I'm gonna propose landscaping Quiet Brook Pond. I have a thought that Jeff had a thought when I was talking to him that I'm now stealing, that would be to see if we could have Jesse talk to the Yost family
Okay.
about changing their donor intent. To say, we have, the Mary Yost Fund is to be used for plantings of
perennial nature, right?
perennial.
I haven't seen it, but that's what I remember. But it only includes the cost for the plants, not the labor to install.
Right, and so we've been sitting on this money for
A long time.
too long, far too long,
A long.
because we have the money for the plants, but we don't have the money to put the plants in the ground. If we could talk to, and so my grand scheme is to talk to the Yost family, see if they are willing to change the donor intent to let us use the funds all at once to create Mary Yost Pond that is with her name on it to pay for, start to finish, this is long-term, it will have perennial plants, but we also need to, we might need to grade things, we might need to clear things out. Let us do the whole project, use all the funds so that everybody can enjoy it, instead of us saying, next year we're gonna use $35 of this to put a bush in.
Because how much money do we have in that?
25,000 or something, it's something ridiculous.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's enough to make a really nice place to honor somebody who did something really nice.
It was a little restricted.
Yeah, and so, I think it would be worth it to at least have a conversation with the family to say, let's do something that we can all enjoy for next to kindergarten.
Spray aerators.
Is that something that?
Which one is quiet?
We wanna try, I mean, and that's like, that's kind of, if we can get that to happen, that's kind of a fun project, because we get
This one right here?
to imagine and do stuff.
It's over here.
And would we incorporate that in with the planting of native plants and sunflowers? Would she be that be able to like?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
If we needed to use some of that money for that aspect too, looking at places?
Yeah, I mean, I think the plan kind of is, whenever we're doing stuff, we're gonna, I think we're required now to leave, I think, I don't know if the ordinance passed or not, but I think we're more or less required to use native when possible.
Yeah, I think, there's a priority, it was,
It must be by the,
So I guess I was trying to remember, what were we thinking with that line? What we even thought it was?
Well,
Was it
it's
scattered
less-
around or like, how we were looking at some of the other green spaces and going, like,
To just
clear
like
out?
throw
some
some,
of these
yeah, like
areas?
throw a handful of seeds in and see what
Well,
happens.
if you recall, when we were out on one of our field
Yeah.
trips,
The tunnels
we
right
have some
here.
of those nice
Yeah, that's
little
what we have
sites
electrical
with
into.
exposure, on the north side of these areas here, for example, this area over here, where we have this pass, has this exposed hillside here.
Yeah.
We cleared out, you can put a lot of sunflowers in here, there's always been the discussion, and from many years ago when MI was putting in the development, as to doing, more, it's an expensive lift again to redo this all at once.
Yeah.
So I think year to year, you're gonna have this where you can, the hillsides, there really needs to be some management, right? You let things grow, because they might put down grass. And so we to help with our mowing schemes and stuff, we've allowed it to grow up, but it still needs to be bush hogged twice a year. But it takes nature a long time to convert the grass. It could be helped along, and we could have, of course, you get weeds and thistles and things that people aren't so thrilled with that grow in between while nature's doing its job. But it does need to be helped along, and maybe one hillside at a time, can be budgeted by council to kind of do this. And within a 5 to 10 year period, you've done some really neat work, and maybe it's only 5 or 10 grand a year, but at some point, that actually stops because nature has done what it needs to do, and you have guided it through that pathway. We don't need to spend 100 grand a year to do it, we just need a little bit here and there, I think, quite frankly. So that's something that we can, this body can plan out each year and kind of go through the stages.
In an area that.
Yeah.
So we've got bat houses, Quiet Brook, if everybody's okay with that, doing the pond, disc golf and amphitheater. We can try and prioritize 2 more of these, and like I said, I'll take them to the council president and just, fool me twice, shame on me. The last time we put a menu together for council, it turned out that they were, and nobody here was on council, it turns out that they were just not interested in general. And I'm not gonna have us do all this work on things that no one's interested in moving forward on. So if we wanna pick 2 more things, I'll take them all to the council president and say, are you cool with us looking into this and giving recommendations on what we think things should look like?
I mean, the tunnel art had 3 votes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's something, at least can be examined, like what's the possibility? I mean, it doesn't
As
have
far
to
as
mean
art
we're
or safety?
busting out. What's that?
As far as art or safety?
Tunnel art installation,
Okay.
3 votes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not my personal favorite thing, but the people want it.
Well, we don't know if the people want it. We only know that we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole list is, so, and again, that was last year's commission, and if this year's commission doesn't wanna talk about it, then let's not. I like the idea. It's uphill for sure. And there are a lot of places where it could fail, but I think it would be cool to walk through the tunnel and see.
It's
you know, our
legitimately,
installation of
it's a
some
blank
sort.
canvas. So I'm not a good artist, so I don't have like, oh, I could just imagine. I'm like, nah, I just see concrete.
Right.
So,
Well, do we want, I mean, that's kind of what this list is for, right? Have further conversations about it, do a little bit of research and see if we want to, if it's a terrible idea, and then we all know it.
I want to say docks. I think that's such a cool,
But isn't that really gonna be part of the whole lake improvement aspect, not really something right now that we?
I think docks are a suggestion, I think definitively, once we see where the lakes are going, I think it's a
Yeah.
good suggestion. Because then you can plan out where those go in relation, you know, people talk gazebo, talk about doing something as an homage back to when this was an amusement area, you know, park and stuff. There's a lot more, you know, the amphitheater is part of that thought process, but there's a lot more that can be done, right? But I think you have to know how your lake's gonna be engineered first, the depths, things like that, where you can place things and, you know, people have a wide wish list, but it costs a couple $1 million, so we have to see what we're gonna do there.
So yeah, JP, I would say that it's something we definitely need. It should be high on our list when we know
yeah.
how many lakes we're gonna have and
Agree.
what they might start to look like. Because I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
wetlands are dredged, yeah.
It was.
So what else we still have?
So
Is-
yeah, we've got two tunnel items on here, and then anything that's not on here, like a comprehensive walking trail plan.
Yeah.
That you brought up at the last meeting that might be worth it, or anything, you know, this again was 6 months ago, we started to put this list together. It's entirely possible that we've got other ideas.
And the walking path, I definitely would like to see on this.
Yeah, because I know that there's been talk about the bridges that need to be,
So it's possible, I just want to bring this up, and I haven't mentioned this to Jeff maybe, but if the voters in Franklin County, this village is a small part of that, but if the voters in Franklin County pass the levy for CODA in the fall, that would be a ton of money every year in perpetuity based on sales taxes, not people's income tax, not their property tax, but on sales taxes for the county, that can be spent on pathway, sidewalks, and so forth. I have submitted, in order to keep us at the top of the list, I have submitted a plan, you know, to make sure we have approval, so we have a project ready to go as soon as they, you know, if the voters approve that project. And that would be the one that meets the, you know, top priority stuff is that, you know, they have a CMAX right over there across from us. We need, and we're looking for money for pathway, for sidewalk anyways, sidewalk pathway from State Route 3 to Cleveland, and then, you know, Columbus skipped us for improvement up our side. But essentially, that's not an expensive lift when you're looking at $60 million a year. That's maybe $300,000, $400,000 to get that done. We have enough right of way, so we're not buying right of way. They like it very much. The city of Columbus loves it because it's, you know, we're on either side, and we can actually, they'll help us make the connection out to the Allen Creek pathway. So there'll be a connection from Allen Creek into our jurisdiction, connect both state routes, essentially Cleveland, State Route 3, all the way to the CMAX. And they'll finish the loop, Columbus will finish the loop along 161, back to us again. So we have a project in place that will make that done. Now, each year, from that point forward, in perpetuity, this body can easily plan. I mean, there's only so much sidewalks. I mean, you eventually can do whatever you want, but it includes pathways, it includes bridges, right? Anything that connects the public.
Yeah.
So we might be able to find a way to pay for the bridges if voters
Well,
want
then,
to.
then it sounds to me like that would be a good thing for us to take up so that we can keep the conversations going and keep things in the hopper.
Right, and then we would submit that every year, and for us, it's a small thing, they're gonna be, as I've mentioned in one of these meetings, at some point, you're gonna run out of projects to do with $60 million a year.
Yeah.
Now, Columbus has its imagination going, they can spend the money, right, but there's a lot of communities, and we're a small part of that, but we still get cut,
yeah.
so.
It's best to have a plan in
We need
place.
a third crew stadium, so.
Yeah, the plan, I like to plan the infrastructure. That way you can kind of know where things will be.
I mean, that's planning and zoning, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do we want to call it 5? I picked 6 arbitrarily. We can move it down to 5 unless there's something else that folks are passionate about.
At least on that list, that's really.
It covers the things we can start working on
Yeah.
now, as opposed to having to wait for other cars to fall.
Right, right.
Can I ask, what are the safety concerns of the tunnel, if any, or?
I know that, I mean, some people feel unsafe at night in the tunnel, and there is vandalism that happens.
We
And
can
so,
delay.
was that?
Unfortunately, I didn't like put a light in, you know, before they.
So I know that, there was a time when we were talking about cameras in the village, of putting in a camera, of anything that we could do to improve upon the safety. And again, these are all brainstorms, so we would have to try and figure out.
Well, we do have electric and we have lighting underneath there. I would probably say, before we thought about painting the tunnel, or the art, sorry, we would wanna have a security camera in case someone would vandalize that. Just
And yeah,
order of operate, you know?
Right, yeah, I would think that we could just broaden the whole thing to say tunnel. And then we could talk about, talk about keeping it safe, talk about making it look nice. Do we wanna call that a number 6, or do we wanna be good at 5?
Just keep it at 5, tunnel.
Because tunnel is on,
Yeah.
right?
Tunnel's not on there.
So it's not safety improvements.
So I've got
The tunnel.
bat houses, Quiet Brook, disc golf, amphitheater, walking trail. Comprehensive walking trail plan, and so then if we add tunnel, that would give us our 6. And then we can go to council president and say, are we off base on any of these? And if not, are there
You're
any?
saying amphitheater.
Yeah,
You can take that off, that's done. Council had already appropriated the money.
right, but you're gonna let us know.
I'm gonna let this group, you guys are gonna, but it's all gonna be done in a few weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys are gonna make suggestions. It's gonna go to the OFCC, they're gonna approve, and construction starting in April, May. So
Well, then we have something we can check off right away.
I just know there's something else that's in the top 6. That's all I'm saying.
No, we seem to be struggling for 6 in the first
Yeah.
place, so let's leave the amphitheater on, and then we can show everybody how quickly we go.
Should we adapt the name of the group to planning, doing, and zoning?
Doing it zoning. After we tick the box for
Yeah.
amphitheater, we will amend code once again.
Which is good.
Be planning, doing, and zoning.
Amphitheater has been playing in this body for the past 2 years, so, wrapping it up.
I'm happy with that. I will send that list out tomorrow to us, just so that we have it. And then, we'll work to get a conversation with council president, just to make sure that, and you're gonna help with that as liaison and give him your full-throated endorsement.
Glowing
of what we're
endorsement,
doing
yes,
here.
absolutely.
Cool. With that, is there any old business? Is everybody cool with, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Is everybody cool with moving on? And then, while we're still in this section, we have members of the public. If anybody would like to speak on one of our 2 agenda items, and our agenda items were the rules, our internal rules for operating, planning, and zoning, and identifying items for the green space master plan. If anybody would like to say, any of our 2 members of the public would like to say anything, they can give you 3 minutes on either or both issues. Okay, then we'll move on. Is there any old business? I have the conditional use hearing. We're still just waiting to find out when the applicant wants to have their hearing.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have new business? Okay, with that, it is 7:50, and I would.
Motion to adjourn? Seconded?
The next meeting will be on the 20th.
Yes, sorry, next meeting will be March 20th.
Very good.
March 20th.